Hi there, you're at the Bitcoin Cash Wyckoff technical analysis session. We'll look at both weekly and daily time frames and see where is Bitcoin Cash going to head to and why it seems that it's getting stuck right now. So if you're new to these sessions, especially for Bitcoin Cash because I just started it not long ago, last week I added this pink box. Reason being it's covering the period since the peak of April 2024. The reason of it here is basically I'm trying to tell everybody that if there are distribution cycles, may it be April 2024, December 2024, or the one that we're going through now, if these lower peaks as well as lower bottoms continue, even if you want to be a diamond hand and hold Bitcoin Cash for long, think twice or think thrice that one of the distribution, now or in future, has to show us a sign at least the peaks are going to stabilize somewhere between the green and the light blue key levels. That means 615 to 700. If the peaks doesn't go above or back into this zone, even if you have a lot of confidence with Bitcoin Cash, that's going to limit your profiting power, because even if you keep holding it for long, if it doesn't get back to the light blue level like what it did back in 2021, your return by investing in Bitcoin Cash compared to investing in other better projects would be lower. Let's put it this way. I'm not saying that Bitcoin Cash is going to zero or like that kind of crazy catastrophic scenarios, but this downward trend, if it continues, that means is a diminishing return for you if you invest in it. So that's why I put in like a reddish pink color. It's a warning for us to keep track whether the distribution cycles, either this one or the futures, it's going to break outside of this downward trend. If it is, that would be a good news. Then here, next is these tags over here. It looks to me it hasn't happened yet. Well, some people would say, isn't that red candle an automatic reaction? 50-50, I would say, because the leg upward, if we compare to what happened here, the automatic reaction both times in 2024 returned to the orange key level at around 450. This time it hasn't got to that point yet. This retracement from this point down to where it was, the wick was only around 15%. It's a very shallow retracement that I hesitate to put this tag over here. So I tend not to jump to conclusion and observe it for a little longer, because like I said, if this downward trend is valid, what we're seeing now is just price fluctuations within the buying climax. Not to mention if this is really just a leg up and we don't see a buying climax yet. So if this is really a very positive scenario for the bulls, that the buying climax isn't here but instead at the 700 level, like I said, it has to show us that it has the demand or potential to get back to where it was, at least to the peak of last year. If it does, that's where the buying climax should be. Right now it's still struggling at a point where I can still consider this entire period PSY. So even the buying climax, I will put a question mark here. So it will stay there until in the next few weeks when we see a more significant price retracement. Then we will be able to confirm where the buying climax is. For now, it's still questionable. So that's the big picture of Bitcoin Cash. while it seems like its uptrend is unbeatable. So if we go to the daily, the micro time frame is even more so. This upward trend box, this pink box over here, let me change the color. Let's not use pink because that's for downwards. So this upward trend is still continuing. It hits the top edge of the channel box and then rebound back to the center line. You can consider this. That's very normal behavior for trading price action. So basically it bounces between the bottom and the ceiling of the box and sometimes find support around the center. So the center may not be exactly cutting the box into half, so sometimes it may skew towards one side, but this time it seems pretty much aligning to the center. So that's what we're seeing right now, that it's finding support at the center level. Basically it's combined. The wick, the low points, found support at the white line, while the closing price found support at around the center line. So this white line over here is basically the top edge of the long-term playground zone. The long-term playground zone is basically the price range that encapsulates since 2017 most of the time where the price or Bitcoin Cash has been traded within. So that's why this ceiling is providing quite a bit of support or resistance earlier, back in beginning of the month. So what's next then after the buying climax and second test, and that we have upthrust already appeared. So what we're seeing now, while it's not coming down for a sign of weakness yet, if it ever comes down to test this yellow line, not only that it can be considered a sign of weakness, but also it has come outside of the upward trend box, this blue box over here. So not saying the uptrend is over, it can still rebound from the sign of weakness and like find this bottom of the channel as a resistance line, edges about along it, and eventually goes to a point where an upthrust of the distribution can happen. That can be one of the scenarios. So this is scenario 1 we talked about, comes down for sign of weakness, but then some good news come out. It comes to challenge the light blue key level again at around 707 or 700 basically. I need to adjust these so it's less confusing. Yep, okay, so here that's where it is for scenario 1. Scenario 2 is it comes a rebound and retest and fall outside of the upward trend and doesn't even have sufficient demand. It eventually dies down back to the accumulation zone, much like February to almost May. Those little peaks will be LPS wise, so we have seen those, so I don't need to repeat. When it happens, I'll add the tag. That's scenario 2. Scenario 3, however, interestingly, it doesn't show us even a sign of weakness. The fun fact about this point is a sign of weakness hasn't happened yet, while the upthrust seems to have happened already, because there should be, or like commonly, there should be one sign of weakness before the upthrust or upthrust of the distribution. Obviously, this time it's not. It's more like an outlier that it's not a common case. Like I said, the uptrend last week, the title, the uptrend never ends, is very interesting. There's, even if it's like trading sideways, it's still having higher lows over there and higher highs. So it has been having a very good run, I would say, and whoever are in the Bulls team since April, I believe you guys would be very happy, because the only significant horizontal trading period was back in May to mid-June. Other than that is very much an upward trend, just some retracement, maybe kicking some people away based on their stop loss level. So we talk about two levels, two scenarios. The third one is obviously it doesn't come to the sign of weakness and quickly finds support from the white line and goes up to test and show us an upwards of the distribution. So three scenarios we have covered. Very positive, no sign of weakness. Second, kind of positive, but fine sign of weakness, and then edging to the upwards of the distribution. So reaching it at a later time, maybe in 4Q. This one may happen as soon as in September. Third scenario, the pessimistic or bearish scenario, is fall outside of this upward trend box, show us some last point of supply, and eventually returns to the accumulation cycle. So these three scenarios would be at play, and while we're talking about that, we see a decline in volume. Even the selling volume, they are declining. So the likelihood, based on what happened in the past 5 days, is that the pessimistic scenario may be less likely. The other two may have a higher chance as of this moment, just by looking at these volume bars over here. Just final check with the counter squeeze Bollinger Bands. Currently, the squeeze is happening. You see the purple is basically twisting and curling with the orange. When that happens, and it's been a while now, a big price move is near. So much like what happened back in here, where we see a squeeze for like roughly 10 days, the price shot up to the buying climax back in late July. And then now we have, well, there was a minor squeeze at the beginning of August, and we have this leg up here. Currently, a new squeeze is happening. So, like I said, whether it has shown like limited selling and that's why it's going to find a squeeze to the upside more likely than the downside, the answer will be revealed very soon, because once the squeeze happened, like over here, from the beginning of the squeeze to the actual upward action, that's only like a week's time. So by the time we have our next session, maybe we'll see the price has already moved. So always remember though, big move doesn't mean one-sided. It can go both ways. It's only the signs, the volumes and all that going to show us which side may be more likely. It doesn't eliminate the chance of the other side. So always, we human beings will make mistake. So always set a stop loss, even because it's going to protect us even if we make the wrong decision. So thanks for